Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Green Man. Hope you're all good and well. So, we move on to the 12th episode of the Dark Horse Disc series. This time, we're talking about Iron Maiden's A Matter of Life, and I'm Matter of Life and Death. And I'm joined by Children on a Couch and JC Rock&Metal reviews for this episode. How are you both doing today?
Doing good.
All good.
Good. We've had to cope with some time differences, and the clock's going back an hour in the UK and all of this business. But we've managed still to get together on this call for Dark Horse Discs episode 12. So we have negotiated the changes in time around the world somehow. So this is the album we're talking about. I just mentioned this was the 14th album, the 14th studio album from Iron Maiden, which came out in 2006. I think it came out at on the 28th of August as the kind of world release, but it was slightly different in US, Canada, and Japan. It came out on the 5th of September. That was according to Wikipedia. So I've gone by that as my source as the release date. So what we're going to do is the usual format. We're going to talk first of all about our kind of first experiences with the album and why also we think the album's a bit underrated, why it's a dark horse. Then for the second time round, we'll name our 3 favorite tracks and why. And the final time, we'll discuss where we think it would rank in the 17 studio albums of Iron Maiden. And today we're going to start with Hector, the chill dude on a couch, to kick us off.
Great, man. So yeah, I remember I bought this album when it came out in 2006. This was like the second, like when we had the second coming of Bruce Dickinson. It was the third album after he came back. So I liked it, and I think this is an album. This was their longest album back at the time at 1 hour and 12 minutes, which was long for Iron Maiden, because usually Iron Maiden's albums before that were like 45 to 50 minutes, and this was a long album. It had longer, more epic songs. I like that it was like a concept album about war.
Yeah,
like all the songs followed that. I think it followed an album that I don't think a lot of Maiden fans liked, with Dance of Death. I think that album after Brave New World, which was amazing, was like a dip. So I don't know if people were, like I say, if it was a dark horse because people were apprehensive after Dance of Death. But I think it was a great album. Bruce Dickinson sounded great. His voice maybe had changed a little bit, but he was older. And I think it was a very like mature album with the subject matter about war all around. So I enjoyed it when it came out. I bought it and I listened to it quite a bit. Actually, when you said about talking to this album, I haven't listened to this album in a long time. So I'm like, yeah, I gotta revisit it because I haven't listened to this like in a solid 12 years. I remember listening to it when it came out a little bit, and after that, I don't think I listened to it that much. But yeah, I think it's a dark horse because Maiden has so many albums, and a lot of like core Maiden, Iron Maiden fans always will love the 80s era, like their first albums. And I think Brave New World too, but I think at this time, like there were fans that probably didn't like that they were going more in a proggier type of direction. They wanted the more new, like the 4-minute songs with the epic solos and galloping sound, and not 9-minute songs. So I think some Iron Maiden fans were put off by that because there were a lot of long songs. Back in the day, they would have an album, they would have like 2 long songs, and the other ones were shorter. So yeah, but my initial thoughts, I enjoyed it when it came out, and I thought it was a great Iron Maiden record.
Cool. Yeah. Okay, John.
Okay. But for me, I got into this a little later because when this came out, it came out in 2006. I was kind of like into other stuff at that time, and so I rediscovered Maiden, maybe like after like 2010, 2012, and like the age of streaming, and I thought it was pretty good. I think the one I like with the whole new Bruce Dickinson era, like I like the Brave New World a lot. The second album came out was Dance of Death. I thought that was pretty good, but I think a lot of people like judge it by the cover. because it just had this really bad like CGI cover, and
Terrible.
I, yeah, and because of that, a lot of people judge it. I thought it was a good album. I always liked it, but for me, this is the album where they really made that transition into that new like modern Maiden. So as Hector was saying, that lots of long songs. It's a long album, hour and 15 minutes. Lots of songs are in the 7 to like 10 minute range, which is normal for a Maiden right now. Looking at they're like the new stuff's in Jutsu, Book of Souls. That's kind of like the norm. But at that time, this was like the first album that kind of went in that direction. And I've heard, these old school Maiden fans say that, this is boring. Like they were bored by it. Like it was like too long and they didn't like this new direction. So I think some people were turned off by this new direction. But, bands, they grow, they get older, they want to evolve into a different sound. That's just the natural way. I think all bands are like that with, there are a few exceptions, of course, who like always do the same thing. Like, they're not like AC/DC where they're always gonna like do the same thing. Like this is a band that, they get older, they want to, evolve their band into something else. So some fans liked it, some fans didn't like it. I thought it was good. I liked the whole concept. It's not like a particular concept album, but like it does all the songs do have that recurring theme of war. So I thought that was pretty cool, and I thought it was very good. And when we get to our favorite songs, this is like one of the albums that kind of like got me into modern Maiden with some of the songs where I first started listening to them. So that's that's my thoughts on why it's a dark horse disc, because it was like the album that really made the transition from like the old Maiden to the new one. Yeah.
Yeah, some really interesting points there, because I think that they occasionally had a longer song on old albums. You had like
Yeah.
Alexander the Great, you had Power Slave, which was a bit longer, and you had what's the other one I was
Called by
thinking
thy
of?
name.
Seventh Son of a Seventh Son was a long song, right? But
Yeah.
they never went full kind of all songs were
Yeah,
long.
and
Whereas,
I was
yeah,
also thinking, for example, in Power Slave, Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner, a 13
Yeah,
minute
that's a long
song,
one.
which is
yes, yeah,
kind of like groundbreaking at that time, 1984. They've never done that before, and a lot of people, consider Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner like one of their like greatest songs of all time. But now you're getting an album with like 5 or 6 Rhyme of the Ancient Mariners on like one album. So that's kind of like what they're doing now. Yeah.
yeah, 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 and that's
So yeah, so
sort of
that's what
similarly to why I think
so
it's
that's
a bit.
what I thought. It's like this whole like new direction. It's like sometimes it's like almost like too much. That's what some
Yeah,
people might think when you're fans of like.
yeah.
I blame
I
Bruce
think we
Dickinson.
I think we've lost JC's visual a bit there, but yeah, so for me, I remember listening to this album. I think I sort of listened to it mostly about sort of 2012, 2013, because I distinctively remember when I was looking around flats and places to live in London, I would often have this on either kind of when I was traveling into London on the train or in the car. So my memory of this album is my memory of first kind of looking around London for somewhere to sort of live. So it's an interesting association I have with this album in terms of like my memories of it. But then everything you guys have said about why it's a dark horse, I think I'm pretty much think the same. I would say it's definitely, yeah, the progressive vibe put off quite a few Maiden fans, so probably turned off quite a few Iron Maiden fans. It's interesting because the critics, I think, were quite sort of divided when I was looking at the different, ratings. You had some like blabbermouth.net, I think, that gave it like 5.5 out of 10, and then Classic Rock, I think, gave it a 9 or a 9 out of 10, I think. So you can see there was a bit of a division in, with the critics as well. I think when this album came out, I think I really like it though. I think I think the songs are still pretty good. They don't feel, some of the songs are long, but you don't feel the length. and I think that's where they're a bit different even now with some of the songs I've heard recently from them, from albums like from a book of songs from a Book of Souls, or what was the one from Final Frontier, I think it was, where they just feel that they're long, that they're not doing much in
Never
terms of the
ending.
changes in the music. It feels a bit more like this album still has enough in terms of changes that I enjoy. And so we'll go on to the tracks shortly, and I'll kind of go into more about why I like certain tracks on here as well. But yeah, those are kind of my thoughts. And yeah, I think it's a bit of a dark horse, mostly because people, you know, maybe were turned off from the sort of transition into this new kind of completely progressive style of Iron Maiden. So we'll move on now to our three favorite tracks, and we'll go back to Hector.
So yeah, going through this album, you know, it's 10 tracks. So the three tracks that stand out to me is the first one will be For the Greater Good of God, which is a 9.5 minute song, but it's so epic. And
Yeah.
when Bruce Dickinson is shouting for the greater good of God, like it has to be amazing live. It reminds me of that epic feel of songs like Hallowed by Thy Name, Fear of the Dark, you know, that really Bruce it commands you. You know, it's a great epic song to sing along to, and even though it's long, it doesn't feel that long.
That would sound great live. I don't think I've heard them play that live when I've
I've
seen them.
never heard them play that
Yeah,
live, and I've
yeah.
seen them twice, but I saw them when they played more of the classic songs, and then for the next album, the Final Frontier tour. But they didn't play anything from this album, so that would be my first pick. Then I would pick Brighter Than a Thousand Songs. I think that one's another one that, even though it's long, it's great, and I like how it changes. It starts slow and it starts building up, and Bruce sounds great in it. And the other one is Different World, which opens the album, and this is the short track. I think this is the only 4.5 minute track, and it's you usually made
It's a
them
good one.
as like this like real fast song to start an album. So I think that one starts the album on a great note, and I think that's the song from this album that I heard the most, because I think it was a smooth transition from their other work. So those are my three picks.
Awesome. Cool. JC?
Okay, I'm actually picking different ones. So my first one, These Colors Don't Run. It's
Oh, that's a good one.
you
Yeah.
know, one of the epic ones. It's just like, yeah, these songs kind of like have kind of like a, I guess, pattern or formula to them. They start with those like slow like bass intro by Steve Harris, and they have the melodic guitar riffs. But I really like the lyrics. You know, it's about soldiers going to war, you know, going off to die, you know, how your lives are expendable. So they use that. And then they add in lots of like different things, like they add in keyboards, which is something they didn't really do much in the past. And it's more epic. It's like more like a progressive rock type of song. You got like the solo, and then like towards the end, they kind of change the rhythms. And so that's a really good song. The other one, The Longest Day, another one, it gets another song that's kind of similar. It still has that same formula with the bass intro, the melodic lead guitar playing. This one, it's about like the D-Day invasion during World War II, and like how it affected like young soldiers. And this one I like because Bruce Dickinson has like a higher range, and the song goes through like these like different changes. There's lots of melody, and then you know, like during these like longer songs, there's usually like some time between like 4 and 5 minutes where they like to kind of change it up and go like a little faster and play lots of like complex guitar riffs, and then the guitar solo, and then those like twin lead guitar playing. So that's something very common with this band. So they do that a lot. Like this band likes to do like these long like stretches of like just like instrumentals that are like maybe like a 3 minute instrumental in the middle of like a 7 minute song. And I always thought that was cool because you know these guys, you know, they play really well. So that's the other one. And my third pick is going to be the second single called "The Reincarnation of Benjamin Brig." This was the first song I heard from this album. It was on just like some kind of just compilation that I was listening to at the time, and it's the same thing. It's the same kind of formula again. It starts slow, then it gets heavy. That opening riff is like really great. I really love that one. And they go through the whole process of the whole like the verse and then the melodic choruses, then the tempo changes, guitar solos, the twin guitars, and then that long stretch of instrumental. So pretty much most of the songs on this album did kind of follow that, with the exception of a couple ones like Hector was saying, like I mean, Maiden likes to put like one like kind of like old school like short 4-minute song they released as a single. So in this case, it was Different World. So pretty much all the modern Maiden albums have that, and they might have some other songs that might have like another like short like 4 or 5 minute songs, but in general, most songs are the 7 to 9 minute range. So I picked 3 of the longer ones, and that's what I liked about them.
Right. Yeah. I love I've matched so yeah, I loved the Reincarnation of Benjamin Brigg. That's one of mine
Yeah.
as well. I remember listening to this song for the first time as well and thinking, oh, that sounds really cool. It sounds a bit like I don't know if the introduction slow, but one of my preferred slower Iron Maiden introductions, because he kind of got that really eerie, distant guitar solo that it sounds really like, it just sounds really nice. And then it kind of goes into quite a heavy riff, doesn't it? And I like the little variations on that riff they do as the song goes on. So yeah, I really like Reincarnation of Benjamin Brigg a lot. Then with Hector, I like For the Greater Good of God. Yeah, and yeah, I love that chorus a lot. Yeah, I think that it's one of those examples of a Maiden song where Bruce's vocals really well complemented by the guitar section, I think, as well. Like it's really hits you straight away. And I think sometimes with recent Iron Maiden songs, I was kind of thinking For the Greater Good, it is a long song, but for the most part, you stay with it because it's a really good one. And then I've gone for a different track. I think this one's a shorter one as well, called The Pilgrim.
Yeah.
I like that one quite a lot, and I thought it was between that and Different World for me. Yeah, The Pilgrim, 5 minutes. So yeah, I liked that one a lot actually when I was revisiting this, and I had forgotten that I liked that one. So I thought, as one of my kind of third favorite, I'd go with that one just to be a little bit kind of different, I guess. But yeah, those are my 3: Pilgrim, Reincarnation of Benjamin Brigg, and For the Greater Good of God. So we'll now decide on, and this I found actually really hard to do, where we would put this in their rankings. So we'll go back to Chill Dudes, back to Hector.
So yeah, let me just say, this album was produced again by Kevin Shirley.
Yeah.
And I wish Iron Maiden would fire his ass. And I'm gonna say why. Iron Maiden they're great, they're awesome, but they're like in a comfort zone because they release always with him, and every album the sound is, I wish they would change a producer. I think it would make Iron Maiden sound better because all their last albums, they sound the fucking same. Like I don't know, the production of Kevin Shirley. I think it's like, come on, like they need to like get rid of him, like Metallica said to Bob Rock, okay, bye. Like, because I think if we challenge them, I think we would get something different from Maiden, because if you listen to all their last albums, they follow a formula where it's like and I think they need to change it up. So Iron Maiden fans, I don't know, maybe some will agree with me, and maybe some will be like, fuck you, Shield on a couch. Like, what the fuck do you know? What have you produced? And I'm like, nothing. But yeah, that's just a thought that I have. Ranking this on Iron Maiden's album, so the classics are still in my top. Those albums for the 80s, I still think the best, like Power Slaves of the World would always be number one. And Brave New World, out of the new, like, Bruce Dickinson, will always be higher than this. So this one would be like if how many albums do they have? Like 17, 18?
17, I believe.
Yeah, this would be like in the 8 to 10. Like I would really need to
That's quite
think about it.
high. I think that's quite high. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because I think this one's better than Senjutsu. It's better than the Book of Souls, which I think is overrated as fuck.
I somewhat agree with that. I think
Yeah,
Book of Souls is a bit overrated. Yeah, yeah.
and the Final Frontier is an album that I hated when it came out, but now I don't hate it that much
Interesting.
because you know
Yeah,
what? When I saw them on tour on that one, they sounded great live. And Dance of Death is one of their weakest albums. And in the 90s, there's some of the Iron Maiden albums that I really forgot about. And I liked Fear of the Dark. So yeah, it would be somewhere there. I really need to think about it. But obviously, the classics are Number of the Beast. You know, those ones, they're untouchable. But yeah, this one, out of the, I would, I think for Maiden, you have to rate with the old school and Second Coming of Bruce Dickinson. So for the Second Coming of Bruce Dickinson, Great World, number one, then this one.
okay.
And I think the last one is Book of Souls.
Really, is that your least favorite of all of them?
That's my least favorite Iron Maiden album.
So yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, I think it's overrated. I'm not sure it'd be my bottom, but yeah,
Super
we'll come to
overrated.
that. So I'm going to be interested to hear what JC thinks after that.
Okay. Just yeah, I mean, like I said, I just did like a quick ranking. I kind of put on my screen. I just kind of put them all in order. Just did it quickly without listening, without thinking too much about it. And I have it at 10. You know, there's 17 albums, but like I said, like all the ones, the old ones are up front. Because I got Peace of Mind, Somewhere in Time, Power Slave, Number to Beast, Seventh Son. That's my 1 through 5. I got No Prayer to Dying all the way at number 17 at the bottom. I got the two Blaze albums, which I kind of like, but they're towards the bottom. Final Frontier, it would be my lowest out of the Modern Maiden, but that one I never got into. And for the Modern Maiden, I actually have Senjutsu as number 1, Book of Souls 2, Brave New World 3, and then Matter of Life and Death 4. So I'm kind of more into like their more newer stuff, just because I guess these are the ones that I bought the albums, I've listened to them more, and
Okay.
that's just how I like it. But it's in their discography, it's a 10. So like this new stuff is not nowhere near as good as their old stuff, but I think that they're still putting out some decent albums. They're not bad, but
Cool. Yeah, really
so that's mine.
interesting. Like there are bands who
Yeah,
I
no,
guess they're one of those bands that've been around for such a long time that you have so many different opinions, don't you? So yeah, interesting. Yeah, because for me, so I kind of had to decide. I was thinking which albums would this be? Which ones would I put on instead of other albums? And for me, Final Frontier, I think, is my least favorite, but there are a couple of songs I enjoy on there. Then Virtual 11, which, yeah, I don't particularly dislike. I think it's got a song called Future Real, which I've always loved from that album, but the rest of it I'm kind of neither here or there with. No Prayer for the Dying, one of my least favorites as well. Then Senjutsu, which I know got quite a lot of hype at the time, but I'm not sure it's that great an album, to be honest. And
It's
then
not.
and then Book of Souls, and then this one, which is 12, which is interesting because this, I guess, has been I suggested this as the dark horse, and yet it's only 12 on my list, which is interesting thinking. But I really like albums like, so for instance, the X Factor, I like that Blaze album, which is a little bit of a controversial choice maybe. I like X Factor quite a bit. There's a few songs on there I just still go back to. And then I like what was the other one I was just trying to think of then? It's gone from me. But yeah, I think so. It'll be about sort of 11th or 12th probably for me. which I guess is roughly the same as you guys, you know, saying 8th to 10th. So we're thinking roughly the same way. Our orders are probably just a bit different overall, but yeah, that's what makes this so fun to do. Of course, if we had exactly the same rankings, it wouldn't be fun, would it? Right. So cool. Well, I think that brings us to the end of the video on this A Matter of Life and Death. I was worried I was going to say A Matter of Loaf and Death, which is the Wallace and Gromit film, before I started the video, because I was thinking of that the other day. So anyway, shall we bring things to a close, because I've got a warning from Zoom that the meeting's going to end pretty soon. So all right, well, just say thanks to my guests as always for joining me for this latest Dark Horse Discs episode, and we are gradually now working our way to the end of this series. I think intending to do maybe 2 or 3 more episodes. So thanks very much to Children on the Couch. Don't forget to subscribe to his channel. He does lots of reviews and interviews up and coming bands. And you've got JC Rock and Metal reviews his channel as well. Don't forget to subscribe to his channel for his comprehensive coverage of rock and metal and new albums coming out and rankings and all that sort of thing. And then you've got my channel as well, which is a similar channel to John and Hector's, but it has a sci-fi, fantasy and horror slant as well. Tomorrow night I'm doing a kind of a Halloween premiere video of recent horror films in a tier list that I've been watching lately. So maybe you join me there for that. Otherwise, from me and from my guests, till next time, bye for now.
Bye.